Joaquin Phoenix is Napoleon Bonaparte. If Bradley Cooper is Leonard Bernstein, Joaquin Phoenix is Napoleon.
Sure, why not?
So here we are with a review. The other huge movie of the week, another big potential awards contender. They're all coming out around Thanksgiving. Alonzo will tell us about it.
You want to be great. You are nothing without me. Say it.
So this film, like Maestro, taking a very wide look at Bonaparte's life, we pick up at the French Revolution, specifically the execution of Marie Antoinette. So somewhere the guy from El Conde is in this scene too, I guess. All the way to the end of Bonaparte's life, dying in exile on the island of St. Helena. And so we basically follow Joaquin Phoenix's Napoleon through the highlights: the Reign of Terror, the Egyptian campaign, the March on Moscow, Austerlitz, Waterloo. And in between, he falls in love with Josephine, played by Vanessa Kirby. And their relationship is fascinating. And I wish there was more of it because it's real fucked up. There's a lot of psychological one-upsmanship going on between the two of them. And you love to see it. And they're playing it really well. Joaquin Phoenix is playing Napoleon as kind of a petulant brat, which is probably not too historically inaccurate. Definitely one of the reasons that so much of the European establishment resented him was that he wasn't one of them. He wasn't an aristocrat, this Corsican. Who does this guy think he is? And so, he does not mix well with, your archdukes and your czars and whatnot. The thing is, going into this, we've been told that there's going to be a 4-hour cut that Ridley Scott has created that's going to be on Apple TV Plus eventually. This runs about 2:40, and it's what I like what's there. I'm fascinated by what's there, but it does feel like a bit of a hitting. We got all these highlights we got to hit, and some of those highlights are incredible. The Battle of Austerlitz sequence will be talked about a great deal for years to come.
Yeah.
The editing, the staging, all of it is brilliant. It's a really just an extraordinary kind of sequence in the film. But there's so little time to kind of pause and stop and delve into any of the psychology of who Napoleon was and why and what drove him. His mother was ambitious. That's kind of all we get, and those scenes with Josephine do illuminate him in a way that the rest of the film doesn't. And so I hope that the 4-hour version gets more sort of spots to breathe. And I think that there's a history there. Certainly the long director's cut of Kingdom of Heaven is far superior than the director's cut. Blade Runner over the years evolved into longer versions that were more what he had originally intended. So, kind of, I think eventually we'll be putting a pin in this one, and we'll talk about the 4-hour one when it drops. But I'd say this version is quite good and makes me really interested to see what the longer one's going to be like.
Yeah, for sure. And just the fact that 86-year-old Ridley Scott is still making big, substantial epics is very exciting, and this is totally different from House of Gucci, it is and it's not. Like the weirdo sense of humor, the weirdo sexuality and sense of humor in House of Gucci kind of exists here. But like I was saying with our friend Robert Abley, and as you put it, Ridley Scott does not do camp, right? So like the little glimmers aren't weird enough almost, but they're channelizingly so that you want more of that kind of thing. This is the kind of movie it's just big, epic, old-fashioned, substantial filmmaking and actual horses. Along those lines, there is some stuff with horses that is very disturbing. This movie is incredibly shockingly graphic in its violence at times, and with no prelude, just bam, things happen. It's very startling, and some of these startling things involve horses. So it's just FYI, if this is going to be troubling, and understandably so, it's really hard to watch.
I had a conversation with our pun-loving friend Justin Chang that I was trying to work Pony Blown Apart into my review, but I didn't.
Man, but it's disturbing though. I laugh, but it's really hard to watch.
CG though. It's not like they did it for real.
I know.
I'll say this. I think this movie is one of the best examples I've ever seen of what does it look like when a cannon is shot into a bunch of people who are just standing there marching towards it, or when a bunch of artillery people are shooting at people who are coming towards you. It gets a lot pretty up close and personal in a way that you're not used to in these sort of broad, war epics.
Yeah, no, it's gigantic, but also, yeah, you're right, intimate like that, and visceral and like granular in its detail. And those, they feel like actual people. They don't feel like just CGI'd masses, or just little blips. It feels like, a cast of thousands and all that. I also was more interested in the relationship between Napoleon and Josephine. And both of these actors are people who will go to weird places, right? Weird and dark and
sexual,
dangerous places. Totally. And so there's a scene where they're just sitting on the couch side by side in front of the fire. And it's very quiet and it's very intimate. But what they are doing in the way that they are torturing themselves and each other is so like exquisitely tense. And what Vanessa Kirby brings to this in terms of just her physicality, what she can do with her eyes. I mean, Joaquin Phoenix has an incredible screen presence and is quite often very unpredictable, but like what she's doing is really interesting, and she has a real arc and has to evolve depending on what's going on with him. And so I thought she kind of steals the show in a lot of ways. But then there are some just absolute weirdo things that he does in the way he courts her. Oh my God. And like, what are we doing here? It is very long. It is very long. And the battles go on for a very, very long time. And I do kind of feel like there's a bit of a dragginess and a bit of like okay, who's this person now and where is this now? And it feels like it's kind of rushed, but also like kind of a draggy, repetitive nature of like, okay, now is this battle, and now is this battle, and now is this battle. And so I don't love it, but I was dazzled by it.
Again, I think the Austerlitz sequence is so great that everything after it feels a little bit less interesting, although, you still get like, I think the Waterloo sequence is also really well done. And I really appreciate the way that Dariusz Wolski, who is kind of Ridley Scott's go-to cinematographer of late, the way he'll light a scene makes all the difference of conveying like, this battle's going well and this battle is not going so well. Like just the way that the shadows and the clouds are, it just kind of gives you this mood of like, this is not going to end well, kind of thing, which I really admire the skillful way they were able to put that together. And
some of the underwater stuff with that one as well.
And Austerlitz, absolutely, right? Yes.
I thought I had never seen that before, like just the angle on that. And as you say, like what happens when a cannon gets fired, like you see that and you know that this is ice, right? And so there's the tension of, oh God, what's going to happen? And then you see what happens. And there's just a really tense sense of claustrophobia to all of that. So that was
once again, it doesn't end well for the horses.
Right, there's more horse stuff in there. So, we're going to review the 4-hour version. I mean, I think we have to. I want to. I want to see what else is there in terms of the further character development with this. So, I look forward to that. And if you are training for battle or a 4-hour movie or whatever, might I recommend our friends at Carol Bike. Carol Bike is once again offering a great deal. You can get $250 off your Carol Bike, which is a totally like sturdy and well-made stationary bike for inside your house. Mine's right back there. I swear to God, it's there all the time. And that is until January 15th. You get that off with our code Breakfast All Day, Carol Bike. I think a bunch of you guys have already purchased these, and I think you're enjoying them. I hope. Let us know if you've gotten your Carol Bike through us. So we're happy to be partnering with them again as you head into the holidays and you eat too much turkey and too much stuffing.
Exactly. Enjoy those holiday treats, but pre-game your New Year's resolutions and get on that now.
Yeah, for sure. So what's your number then on Napoleon?
I'm going to say 8. I think this is really impressive, and I think that even if this was all we were getting from Ridley Scott, I would come away feeling like I'd really seen something quite extraordinary. And even if it's not as deeply kind of historical or psychological as I would have liked in terms of the characters, on the scale of being an epic, I think it really does everything it wants to do.
Yeah, I will say 7 because I totally admired it technically. Cinematography, costume design. I love all of the performances, but it didn't move me. Like, I found it impressive and kind of startling at times, but I was not emotionally moved by that. And I wonder if that depth comes from, as you say, the longer 4-hour cut.
We'll
will you see this movie? Will you see the 4-hour version on Apple TV Plus? Will you watch both like us and compare and contrast? Let us know.